So ladies and gentlemen, up next is a wonderful keynote on resolving the TV ratings tangle once and for all. And for this session, I would like to invite Mr. Paritosh Joshi, who is a media analyst. Please welcome Paritosh for this keynote.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a pleasure and a privilege to be the guest of AdGully at this important session and on this very timely topic related to television audience measurement. Let me begin with a very important disclosure. While I do serve on various committees, have served on various committees of BARC, have been closely involved with BARC at various stages, I am here today in my personal capacity. I do not represent BARC and I do not speak for BARC. I do not represent official policy. I do not represent the board or the governance team. I do not represent the executive team. I'm here as Paritosh Joshi, as somebody who is deeply interested in and involved with measurement in general and television measurement in particular. So none of my remarks should be attributed to BARC, right? They are mine and mine only. Now, there are a few things. We have a short time today, so there are a few things that I want to quickly cover off. And perhaps, a subsequent session with more participants might be able to delve into some of the issues which I raise right now. So let me start with the elephant in the room, as it were, which is that television measurement seems to be a permanent battleground. It seems as if there are always some parties who are angry, disenchanted, upset, unhappy with whatever is happening in the world of measurement, and in particular, what is emerging from it. Basically, too many people are not really interested in the nuts and bolts of how the measurement system actually functions. What they get upset about, what they are irate about, is what it means to them in terms of numbers that it produces. So the anger or irritation, I don't think, is too often about the mechanics of measurement, the processes of measurement, and so on, but almost inevitably and always about the outcomes, which is the weekly numbers which the measurement system puts up. Now, in the last few years in this country, that issue has in particular brought focus on the news genre, because it appears that the news genre is most palpably angry. And that has in fact, had many twists and turns, including a long period when there were no ratings being offered for the news genre in its totality. And then BARC, in consultation with the News Broadcasters Association and others, decided to start publishing rolled data, which is a 4-week moving average. And even that has many issues, or at least issues that have been raised by the news industry. So what I want to tell you first is that this sadly is not uniquely true of India. Wherever television measurement exists, and television measurement now probably exists in 100 jurisdictions around the world, from really small countries to massive places like our own, there is always some strife, there is always some struggle. And this largely arises from the old principle of shooting the messenger. If you don't like the message, then the messenger gets shot. And in fact, I have even seen criticisms of the rating system by people who are commentators on the news industry, that it is because ratings exist that news becomes, terribly tabloidy and sensationalist and populist and so on and so forth. And I believe that in all of these cases, you are inverting the order of cause and effect. So is measurement free of controversy? It's not free of controversy anywhere in the world. That just happens to be the unfortunate truth of it. And at some level, I would even go on to say that measurement systems do not set out to please anybody. Measurement systems should, if they set out to do anything at all, should only intend to tell the truth. They must intend to report exactly what the market is really saying about what channel, what show, what day part, what genre was watched, and when, and by whom, right? That's all. Now, if it means that somebody believes that they had a right to have an audience and they did not get the audience that they had a right to, or they had a right to a larger chunk of the audience than they seem to have actually catered to, that unfortunately is in the nature of the beast. As content producers, as broadcasters, always want a larger slice of the viewing, a larger slice of the footprint, a larger slice of the audience. And if we don't get it, then, either it makes us strive to get to more, or it makes us angry and, it starts causing us to basically berate the messenger, this messenger being the measurement system. So, there is no remedy to this. To believe that there will be a magic bullet which will immediately come and solve the controversies within measurement, I'm afraid to tell you, is an impossibility, because if there are winners of any measurement system, then inevitably there will be losers. At this time, as you are all definitely aware, the mark measurement system in India measures 600 broadcast platforms. This may well be the most number of broadcast platforms that a single system integrated across the country measures. It is arguable that the Nielsen system in the United States measures more frequencies, but that is because they measure at what is known as the designated market area level. But, nationally telecast satellite-based channel services, I do believe that BARC is the single largest. BARC is also the single largest in terms of the installed base of metered homes, because simply that the number of people per home in India is about 4. And even if you did have a 50,000 metered home panel, say in the West somewhere, which you don't, their average household sizes are smaller, so they would actually measure fewer people. The BARC system measures almost 2 lakh people on a continuous basis, as in 24 hours of the day, all the time. And these 2 lakh people are representative of the TV viewing population of the country. It's a very large panel. In a statistical sense, it's a very sound and solid and well-executed panel. Can it get better? It will get better in a variety of ways. And it's a continuous improvement thing. So I don't want to second guess what the BARC management or the BARC governance structure contemplates as its next move. But one thing is for sure, the task of audiovisual content measurement, which is what I think we need to now think of, because the TV actually has made way for multiple screens on which we consume what would conventionally be considered television content. So a natural path forward is that a measurement system sort of broadens sideways to encompass more viewing platforms. And this is already happening in many other parts of the world. It is safe to assume that it's a territory that BARC will inhabit in the near term. Definitely not in the very distant future, in the relatively immediate term. In the meantime, what it certainly does do, what the BARC system does right now, is that it already provides a basis for a massive amount of advertising transactions. As you all know, television continues to be the single largest advertising medium, not just in this country, but around the world. Periodically, people write the obituaries of television and declare that, television will soon be extinct. And, basically digital media will drive out linear television. But as that famous old quip has it, the rumors of the death of television are vastly exaggerated. and vastly premature. So maybe it might happen. Maybe it might happen 40, 50 years from now. But suffice it to say that television of the sort that existed at the time when TV first began, which was in the 1930s, to the form that TV has taken today in 2022, there has been dramatic change. There has been tectonic change. Somebody who knew television at the beginning of television would not be able to recognize the way that television is done today. So this linear television business is not going away globally, not just in India, and therefore the task of measuring what comes out of it is also not going away. The ad placement for this massive medium is now basically predicated on the data that BARC provides. And that itself is a significant victory. But this by itself is not the only thing which measurement does or that ratings do. Content planning by producers, content makers, broadcasters, everybody who is involved in the creative professions which feed TV are all keen customers and consumers of the data that BARC produces, because BARC gives them multiple tools to evaluate and examine how well the content is working, what parts of the content are working, what parts of the content are working with which audiences, and therefore, how to plan their content in a manner that it continues to appeal to those audiences and to the extent that they wish it to appeal to. So the strategic planning of content is massively driven by measurement, but that is not the only use either. These are, I would say, the tactical or operational uses of television measurement. There is also the strategic use of television measurement by investors, for instance. And by investors, I mean both primary investors who are broadcasters planning investments and secondary investors who are investors from the financial markets. So how do they use ratings? Well, ratings tell you the emerging audience opportunities that are available. So for a broadcaster, one of the things that might have happened in the last several years is that broadcasters would have noticed that Bhojpuri as a language slice out of Hindi is growing strongly. And when they noticed it, it meant that investments got routed into Bhojpuri as a language. Indeed, on a broader basis, many broadcasters or wannabe broadcasters discovered that India's non-Hindi and English opportunities were growing sizably. Now, some of them had already been catered to from the very early days of private TV in India. If you go all the way back to the 90s, Sun TV was already there. Sun was already doing Tamil, then it did Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam. So all the southern languages had been covered. Marathi got covered fairly early, as did Gujarati. And now there are multiple languages in which TV goes out. But those investment decisions were driven by how broadcasters or potential broadcasters read ratings. Ratings are direct drivers of investment. Also secondary investment. So networks who show a continuously upward trajectory of audiences will attract fresh investment, because from the secondary investment, the market's point of view, that tells you that this is a broadcast network which will have higher and higher ad revenues in the future as its audiences grow. And conversely, if audiences are flatlining or shrinking, it will have an adverse effect on audiences. So there are multiple use cases. I would even argue that television measurement is a fantastic leading indicator of the state of an economy, right? How do I say that? In a buoyant economy, and if the economy is becoming more buoyant, then people have the money to spend on better quality of equipment. So they tend to start upgrading the kind of connection that they have, upgrading the kind of TV that they have. And this reflects in the broader economy, but it starts out from a heightened interest in TV consumption. So another interesting way in which it is now showing itself as a leading indicator is that TV generates a battle for rights for films, rights for sports events, rights for various entertainment programming. And when you start to see the bidding battles between competitors for the same content, you know that their assessment of the economy ahead is actually upbeat, because that's why they believe that they'll be able to recover the investments that they've made. So actually, measurement impacts everything from the most tactical to the most strategic aspects of the broadcast industry. One last thought before I wrap this session up. There is a notion, and I think it's substantially misguided, that TV viewership is declining. And I want to set that particular thing at rest. There was a blip in TV viewing, which happened starting from March of 2020 through till early this year. And that, as we all know, was driven by the fact that hundreds of million people were forced to remain indoors for an extended duration of time, the period that we all know as the lockdown. And during that time, because there was little else to do apart from, whatever work you could do virtually, work from home, WFH, there was plenty of time left over to consume TV content, and therefore TV consumption blipped unnaturally, right? The time spent that went up was not organic. It was inorganic, and it had to do with an unfortunate reality of the world. When that reality has passed, now that it has faded away, we are actually back to the kind of levels that we were at before the pandemic hit us. So, and we have more TV viewers than we did before the pandemic hit us. So this notion that TV is declining, I think you need to get it out of your minds. And I want to leave a last thought before I sign off. TV is not declining, and TV won't decline anytime. I mean, it might flatline, but to imagine that TV fades away and makes way for everything else, I think I can tell you today is wrong for a simple reason. People like me, people who are in their 50s or, sort of in their 60s, or indeed even in their 40s, were people who have seen the entire life cycle of private television in India. So my childhood and, early days of my youth, the only thing we had in India was Doordarshan. There was no option, there was no alternative. And of course, the internet did not exist. So the only two sources of audiovisual entertainment were going into a movie theater or watching Doordarshan and DD2. From the early 90s, with the Iraq war and CNN arriving into our homes, the satellite industry began to take shape, and it had explosive growth. And that explosive growth took it from maybe a few million TV homes in India at the end of the 1980s to 200 million TV homes in India, or more than 200 million TV homes in India in 2022. We've traveled a long way, and people like me find that medium extremely comforting, because in a sense, it is what they've grown with. There are some genres which linear TV lends itself to. Live sports is one, news is another, and these will remain staples for the television industry for years to come. Maybe entertainment in various ways might take a back seat, but there has always been a point of view which says that on-demand media are what you call lean-forward media. You have to lean into your keyboard to pick what you want. Whereas television is a lean-back medium. You sit back and you let the entertainment carry on. I don't think that the world has tired of lean-back entertainment. I believe that lean-back entertainment will remain for a long time. And therefore, whether it is, whichever part of the value chain, from investors through broadcasters, media agencies, advertising agencies, advertisers, and final consumers, I think from all their perspectives, there is the obituaries are being written unnecessarily in haste, and we have time. I believe that this industry will be still with us. Linear TV, it will morph, it will metamorphose, there will be some changes. But 20 years hence, when I'll be stepping into my 80s, we will still have linear TV, we will still have television measurement, and we will still have sizable amounts of advertising which go into linear TV, and therefore making the measurement indispensable to the cause of all the stakeholders in that industry. It has been a pleasure and a delight speaking to you this afternoon. Thank you for your time and your patience, and I wish all of you in the audience, the organizers at AdGully, and everyone who will follow me on this lectern, on this podium, the very, very best. Thank you for your time and have a good day.
Thank you so much, Paritosh sir, that you have joined in. Thanks for your time and also for your wonderful keynote.